For years, he wanted to be a child star, but then he turned into a killer. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I'm going to take you through a truly chilling psychological ride about this child actor so evil it still haunts Hollywood. In the fall of 2004, a 55-foot yacht named Well Deserved glided out of the Newport Harbor, California, for what was supposed to be a routine test run. A retired couple eager to sell their floating home welcomed a young buyer and his companions aboard, trusting that their dream of a new chapter on land was just a signature away. But as the vessel cut through the Pacific waves, something sinister was brewing below deck, a plan so meticulously crafted that it would leave no trace of the couple, their dreams, or their lives. Welcome. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I talk about the psychology behind the crimes. And today we're analyzing a case that stands out for its chilling blend of deception, greed, and betrayal. A case that exposes the darkest corners of human behavior. I want to offer a trigger warning here. This case involves murder, financial exploitation, and details of violence. Viewer discretion is advised. Without further ado, let's pull back the curtains and explore this haunting case together. This is a story of Skylar Dillon. It started with a single phone call to a couple in Newport Beach, California. A charming young buyer expressed interest in their yacht, promising a hefty sum for their vessel that they called home for years. In the serene coastal town where sailboats dotted the horizon, no one could have imagined the horror about to unfold. Beneath the surface of this seemingly eager buyer lay a web of lies, a secret so dark it would shock the nation and leave a community grappling with the question, how could someone hide such malice behind a friendly smile? This is not just a story of murder, it's a story of a calculated betrayal and the resilience of those who fought to uncover the truth. Skylar Dillon, born John Julius Jacobson Jr. on August 12, 1979 in Sun Valley, California, grew up in a world that seemed to promise opportunity. As a child, Skylar's life appeared unremarkable on the surface. A suburban upbringing in a working-class neighborhood with a father who ran a small business and a mother who kept a family grounded. But beneath this facade, cracks were already forming. Skylar's father, John Jacobson Sr., had a history of drug-related criminal activity, and court records later revealed allegations of physical abuse and neglect in the household. Skylar described a childhood marked with instability, claiming their father allowed others to exploit them, though specifics remain limited due to the sensitive nature of these claims. As a licensed professional counselor, I want to mention here these are my speculations. It's not a diagnosis of any kind, but such early trauma could plant seeds of deep-seated resentment or a need for control, psychological factors that we often see in true crime cases involving calculated crimes. At age 14, Skylar landed a small, uncredited role as an extra on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. A fleeting brush with fame that seemed to offer an escape from a troubled home life. But the acting career fizzled out quickly. Sources noted that Skylar struggled to memorize lines, and by their late teens, the dream of stardom had faded. This failure, coupled with an unstable family environment, may have fueled a growing sense of inadequacy or entitlement, key psychological markers that we'll revisit later. Skylar's early adulthood was marked by further red flags. In 2003, at age 24, they were convicted of armed burglary, serving time in a California prison. This wasn't a one-off mistake. It hinted at a pattern of seeking quick financial gains through illegal means. As a counselor, I'd point out that this behavior aligns with traits of impulsivity and risk-taking, often seen in individuals with unresolved trauma or a lack of an emotional regulation. Yet to those around them, Skylar could project an image of ambition. Skylar married Jennifer Henderson in 2001, a hairstylist who became the family's primary breadwinner. The couple eventually had a daughter, and Skylar often spoke of big plans such as real estate ventures and a comfortable life. But their financial reality told a different story: mounting debts, a modest apartment, and a growing obsession with wealth. Here's where the psychology comes into play. Skylar's childhood instability, coupled with their brief taste of fame and subsequent failures, may have fostered a deep need for validation through material success. When that success didn't materialize, the gap between their aspirations and reality widened, potentially driving them toward increasingly desperate measures. Again, these are my speculations, not a diagnosis, but they set the stage for the darkness that would soon consume Skylar's life. As Skylar entered the mid-20s, their life began to spiral. After the 2003 burglary conviction, they returned to a society with a parole record, but no clear path to stability. Jennifer, now pregnant with their second child, continued working long hours as a hairstylist, while Skylar bounced between low-paying jobs, including a stint as a telemarketer. To neighbors in Long Beach, California, Skylar appeared unassuming, a young parent trying to make ends meet. But behind closed doors, Skylar was weaving a complex web of deceit. Court documents reveal they began forging checks and manipulating others to gain quick cash. For instance, they convinced a co-worker to assist in small-scale scams, leveraging their charisma to build trust. This ability to charm and manipulate is a classic trait that we see in individuals with antisocial tendencies, where relationships are viewed as tools for personal gain. Skylar's double life deepened in 2004 when they set their sights on a bigger prize. They began researching wealthy individuals, particularly those with high-value assets like cars or boats. This wasn't random opportunism, it was a calculated shift toward targeting vulnerable people who could provide significant financial rewards. Psychologically, this escalation suggests a growing sense of entitlement, where Skylar justified their actions as a means to achieve the life they felt they deserved. One chilling example of this shift came when Skylar befriended John Jarvie, a man they met through mutual acquaintance. In late 2003, Skylar lured Jarvie to Mexico under the pretense of a business deal, only to rob and murder him. Jarvie's body was found with his throat slashed, a crime Skylar later admitted to during their trial. This act wasn't just about money, it was about power play, a way to exert dominance over another person. As a counselor, I speculate that this early murder may have emboldened Skylar, reinforcing their belief that they could outsmart anyone. By mid-2004, Skylar's schemes were growing bolder, and their ability to maintain a normal facade was fraying. Jennifer, unaware of the full extent of Skylar's plans, began noticing inconsistencies in their stories about money. Yet Skylar's charm kept her loyal, a dynamic that points to a manipulative relationship rooted in control. This mix of deception and ambition would soon lead to a crime that would shock the nation. By November 2004, Skylar had crossed a point of no return. Their target was Thomas Hawks, 57, and Jackie Hawks, 47, a retired couple living aboard their yacht, well-deserved in Newport Beach. The Hawkises, who had spent 2 years sailing the Pacific, were ready to sell their yacht and settle on land to be closer to their newborn grandson. Thomas, a former probation officer and bodybuilder, was known for his cautious nature, while Jackie, a dedicated stepmother and nurse, brought warmth to their tight-knit family. They listed their yacht for $435,000, a price that reflected their years of hard work and savings. Skylar, posing as an eager buyer with real estate wealth, contacted them in early November, bringing Jennifer and their toddler to a meeting to ease the couple's suspicions. On November 15, 2004, Skylar, accompanied by 2 accomplices, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a former gang member, and a co-worker, Alonzo. They boarded the well-deserved for a test run. The Hawkinses, trusting Schuyler's polished demeanor, had no idea they were stepping into a trap. Once at sea, Schuyler and their accomplices overpowered the couple, forcing them to sign over the yacht's title and reveal their bank account details. The Hawkinses were then bound, tied to the yacht's anchor, and thrown overboard, alive, into the Pacific Ocean. The brutality of this crime is hard to fathom. Thomas and Jackie, who had built a life of adventure and love, were betrayed in the most callous ways. Their bodies were never recovered, a fact that compounded the grief for their sons Ryan and Matt. The motive was purely financial. Schuyler drained the Hawkinses' bank accounts, netting over $400,000, and took possession of the yacht, which they later attempted to sell. The Newport Beach community was rocked by the couple's disappearance. Friends described a pervasive sense of unease as rumors swirled about foul play. The Hawkinses' decision to sell their yacht was well known, yet the lack of communication after November 15th raised alarms. Local police initially struggled with the case, as the crime occurred at sea outside of their jurisdiction, and there were no bodies to confirm a homicide. This delay left the Hawks' family in agonizing limbo, a reminder of how systemic gaps can prolong suffering for victims' loved ones. By late November 2004, the investigation into the Hawkins' disappearance gained momentum, thanks to the persistence of their sons, Ryan and Matt. The brothers created a website to raise awareness, pleading for information about their parents. A critical clue emerged when police traced the yacht to Anciado, Mexico, where Schuyler had attempted to sell it under false name. Detectives zeroed in on Schuyler after learning they had accessed the Hawkins' bank accounts shortly after the couple vanished. A search of Schuyler's apartment revealed incriminating evidence, documents related to the yacht, and receipt for large cash purchases, including a new car. This financial trail, a glaring red flag, as Schuyler's modest income as a telemarketer couldn't justify the spending. The breakthrough came when Alonzo, one of Schuyler's accomplices, agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for a lighter sentence. Alonzo's chilling testimony detailed the events aboard the Well-Deserved, describing how Schuyler orchestrated the murders with cold precision. He revealed that Schuyler had forced the Hawkinses to sign over their assets before tying them to the anchor, a detail that sent shockwaves through the investigation team. And investigators faced significant challenges, including the lack of physical evidence due to the crime's maritime setting. But Alonzo's cooperation, combined with financial records and witness accounts, built a compelling case. When police arrested Schuyler in December 2004, they denied any involvement, claiming the Hawkinses had simply sailed away. Jennifer was later arrested in April 2005 after visiting Schuyler in jail. She also maintained her innocence, though her role in luring the couple would later come under scrutiny. The investigation's turning point was a search of the yacht, where traces of Hawkinson's DNA were found, confirming Alonzo's account. This evidence, paired with Schuyler's prior conviction for John Jarvie's murder, painted a picture of a calculating predator who thrived on deception. From a psychological perspective, Schuyler's ability to compartmentalize their crimes while maintaining a normal facade suggests a profound lack of empathy, a hallmark of antisocial personality traits. In the fall of 2008, Schuyler's world unraveled. Their trial for the murders of Thomas and Jackie Hawks, as well as John Jarvie, began in Orange County, California. Facing overwhelming evidence, Schuyler's attorney conceded their guilt early in the trial, focusing instead on avoiding the death penalty. On October 20, 2008, a jury convicted Schuyler on 3 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances, recommending the death penalty. And on April 10, 2009, Schuyler was sentenced to death. Though California's moratorium on executions means they remain on death row at San Quentin State Prison. Jennifer was tried separately. She was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder in 2006 and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole. Her attorney argued she was manipulated by Skylar, but prosecutors maintained that she was a willing participant, using her pregnant status to gain the Hawkes' trust. John Kennedy, the third accomplice, also received a death sentence, while Alonzo was sentenced to 20 years for voluntary manslaughter. From a psychological perspective, Skylar's behavior points to several mental health indicators. Again, I want to point out these are my speculations, not a diagnosis. Their childhood trauma, including alleged abuse and neglect, may have contributed to a distorted worldview, where others were seen as a means to an end. The calculated nature of the crime suggests a high degree of manipulation and a lack of remorse, traits often associated with anti-personality disorder. Skylar's ability to charm victims while planning their deaths reflect a chilling duality, where outward charisma masked with inner detachment. The Hawkes family, meanwhile, showed remarkable resilience in the face of an unimaginable loss. Ryan and Matt channeled their grief into advocacy, ensuring their parents' story was told with dignity. Psychologically, their proactive response, creating a website, pushing for justice, reflects a coping mechanism rooted in action and purpose, a way to reclaim agency after a devastating betrayal. This case left Newport Beach and Hollywood with lingering scars. The community tightened security around its marinas, and yacht owners became warier of prospective buyers. Advances in forensic technology have since helped identify additional financial transactions linked to Skylar. But the absence of the Hawkes' bodies remains a painful, unresolved question for their loved ones. This case sticks with me because it reveals how deeply betrayal can cut, not just for the victims, but for the entire community left questioning who they can trust. The Hawkes' story is a stark reminder that evil can hide behind the most convincing facades, and it underscores the importance of listening to our instincts when something feels off. In the years since the murders, the Hawkes family has worked to honor Thomas and Jackie's memory. Ryan and Matt have spoken publicly about their parents' love for adventure and family, ensuring their legacy lives on through their grandson, who carries their spirit. The family has found some closure through the convictions, but the pain of never recovering Thomas and Jackie's body lingers, a wound that may never fully heal. From a psychological perspective, this case highlights the devastating impact of unchecked trauma and greed. Skylar's descent from a troubled child actor to a calculated killer serves as a stark reminder about the need for early intervention in mental health struggles. It also reminds us the strength of survivors like the Hawkes family, who transformed grief into advocacy. So what do you think about this case? How does someone like Skylar, who had dreams of becoming the next child star, orchestrate such a cold-blooded scheme while blending into everyday life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I do read every one of them. And if there's a case that you would like for me to cover next, let me know. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, stay curious, stay safe.